Kids of all ages have questions about sex. They can come at you from out of the blue, and sometimes we can be unsure of the best way to answer them. A groundbreaking sex ed series for kids called Everybody Curious is a guide on how you can approach the subject. Watch this.
Welcome to Everybody Curious. Go!
What was a typical age for people to get curious about dating?
We're going to be talking about the A word. What comes to mind when you hear the word abortion? How would you define abstinence? Who here has ever been rejected?
Everybody got shy.
I know, that's kind of a big question.
So the fourth season of this series focuses on creating a safe space for kids and adults as they tackle issues like sex education on the spectrum, puberty, relationship, bodies, and more. Joining us with more this morning are Nadine Thornhill and Spencer West, the hosts of the show. Great to have you both here. Spencer, welcome back.
Thank you so much. Nice to be here.
You are having some real talk in this show around sexuality, abstinence, abortion, consent. These are complex topics, but we know kids have questions about them, right? They want some answers. So how do you, first of all, make them feel safe, Nadine, where they feel like they can open up and actually ask an adult about them?
So I think one of the most important ways we can make kids safe, whether we're hosting a show or having these conversations at home, is to, just let kids know that it is okay to be curious about these things. And then I think also to be honest, even if they ask us a question and we may not feel ready or we may not have the answers, that's okay. We can just say, wow, that's a big question. I'm glad you asked. I may need a little time to come back to you with the answer. And to also remember that we can take our time answering these things, that we don't have to do it perfectly. We don't have to have all the knowledge at our fingertips, that it's really an exploration for all of us because we're really all sort of grappling with these things in our own lives.
Yeah, Spencer, how is Everybody Curious supplementing what kids and the conversations that they're having either at school or at home?
I think what it's doing is it's allowing a larger conversation. I feel like oftentimes in the school system, it's a bit rigid and it's specifically about sort of procreation and that's it. And we don't really get into the depths of all the spectrum of what comes along with sex education.
Yeah.
And so I think for us, that's what we're trying to do, is give that space for kids to ask all the questions that they're not able to answer at school.
Yeah, and you really cover a wide range of topics. Nadine, the first episode focuses on Indigenous sex ed. It's called Big Anti-Energy, which I love. And you visit an Indigenous center where they are beating a condom. So what did they tell you about why that was their approach? And what was your biggest takeaway from that experience?
That was really fun for me because I'd really never seen that approach before. And so what they explained to us was that when they work with youth, beating the condoms, allows them to, tap into something that's really culturally significant for them and culturally relevant. But it's also about getting used to holding a condom and then also having an association between condoms and something that's creative and pleasurable and artistic and beautiful and not just sort of this sort of clinical perspective on the condom as a prophylactic, which I thought was really great. And then there's also it was really relaxing.
It was.
And so it made it easier to start talking because we were just engaged in this almost like meditative, creative activity. And so the conversation just flowed.
Right. Doing an activity while you're having a conversation like that can be
made it easy.
Really helpful.
Yeah.
Spencer, in the show you said as a queer person, sex education failed you. What do you mean by that?
Yeah, so as I mentioned earlier, when we look at sex education, it's typically from a biological standpoint, right? Of like, this is how we make another human. But that's not everyone's end game when it comes to exploration in sex. And so I think it's really important for us to have that conversation for other folks that are looking for just pleasure and not necessarily a biological reason.
What's been sort of the greatest aha for the both of you in hosting the show?
So for me, even though I've been working with kids and youth for almost 20 years now, I am always blown away, and I was blown away by how much insight these kids have, how much we learn from them, and how much they already know, and just how comfortable and compassionate and warm and willing they were to, explore all of this. And explore their own feelings, but also make space for each other and different perspectives. That was
Yes.
really inspiring.
Spencer, what about you?
I think just the intellect that they have. So often we assume kids don't understand things. And, you know, we did an episode about abortion, and the thoughts and feelings that they all had around this topic were so far advanced from where I would have had when I was their age. So I don't think we give them enough credit for how much they were willing to explore and, you know, come up with their own opinions on complex ideas.
Yeah, and they're asking the questions because they want to understand and to know more, which is a good thing.
Exactly.
Spencer and Nadine, thanks so much for coming on today.
Thank
You
you.
can watch the very latest season of Everybody Curious on Shaftesbury Kids' YouTube channel.
Hey, thanks for watching. If you liked this, be sure to subscribe here, or you can check out more Your Morning videos right here.